mental health and how it ties to addiction and why it's so important that you listen today. Recovery Monday. It's the 14th day of October in the Lord's year 2013. I'm J. Michael McKoy, and this is Recovery Monday, brought to you by Powell CDC, heard live at 99.3 KTIA, webcast1live.com, and around the world on such great channels such as Livestream, Ustream, YouTube, Apple TV, Roku, and wherever else you can find it. Coming soon to XM Sirius. We appreciate you being here today, and we thank you for taking the time to tune in. I know that you've got a lot of options. I mean, isn't Oprah or somebody on at 3 or one of those doctor shows? You could go there. I think they're running reruns of Tom and Jerry on the Cartoon Network, and it's Star Wars over and over and over on HBO. But for whatever reason, you're here with us now. And I think that reason is either you have something you have to share that God wants somebody else to hear, or there's something that's going to be said on this program that you need to hear to further that to curb that hurt, habit, or hang up, to find a solution as to why it is your life isn't going the way you planned it. And we're very lucky to have three counselors amongst our midst today. Of course, Lila Stafford, our co-host. We also have Jerry Owens, who's been with us the last couple weeks. He's wonderful. I've had so many, Jerry, positive feedback about you on the show. They say they think you're a ringer. They think you're actually, no, one guy at church said, now he's like a celebrity doctor, right? And you've just got him in. I said, no, he's the real deal. And we'd like to introduce you today to Annie Mauldin. Did I say that right?
Yep.
And you are you're not a mental health counselor. You are a
Substance abuse counselor.
Substance abuse. Okay, the only thing I need you to do is make sure when you talk right into that microphone so everybody can hear you just like they need to hear you. Okay? All right. We've been going through some of the mental disorders that are many times a standalone and have nothing to do with addictions or hurts, habits, and hang-ups. But today we want to talk about how post-traumatic stress disorder can so many times tie into addictions, also obsessive compulsive disorder and panic disorders. And we appreciate Jerry. So many people have said how much they appreciate this series. We were just talking about the download numbers. We're up 40% from the last quarter, and I'm sure we'll have even more people tuning in after you've been here in the beginning of this fourth quarter. So we thank you. So define for me, talk to me like I'm a 10-year-old.
Okay.
What is post-traumatic stress disorder?
Okay, can I go back and review for a second?
As long as you come up and spice,
okay.
You bet.
Something I want to emphasize, since this is a third week, is half of the people who have an addiction also have a co-occurring mental health disorder. And something that I'm really proud of that Powell does, probably as well as any other treatment program in Iowa, is they provide the resources to make sure we identify the specific disorder that goes with the drug or alcohol addiction. Because if you don't get that identified or treated, it's pretty obvious what's going to happen.
Yeah, and all right, Lila, I have a question for you. Push pause button, switch to Lila. We don't do that within the 12-step rooms, but Powell does, and that's obviously a big advantage to being treated by Powell. How do those of us who the extent of our treatment is the 12-step rooms identify and work with someone who has a mental disorder? I mean, I've been told I'm crazy before, but I didn't take it seriously.
That's one of the problems or flaws that I see, because, and especially some of the old timers, they don't even acknowledge that that there are mental problems.
Right.
And so they're trying to fix everything with the 12 steps, which the 12 steps do help a lot. But when there's some mental disorder that's underlying everything, that needs to be treated as well. But I'm thinking I think it's mostly the old timers that are having that problem. But for the most part, I think that people that keep relapsing know that there's something else going on.
Yeah, it can't be just that cessation, that desire to drink hasn't gone away yet.
Correct.
Yeah, all right. Annie, the way we work around here is anytime you want to talk, you just talk. Okay. Anytime. If you feel you need to raise your hand, that's a good way to shut Jerry down. We'll be able to get that done. But seriously, just anytime. We're very transparent here. All right, so 50% of the time, there is an alcohol or drug addiction. There is also a mental condition.
Exactly.
Now, does that also include pornography, sex abuse, emotional abuse? Or are we talking about just alcohol or drugs?
We're talking about a chemical addiction.
A chemical addiction.
Right.
All right.
Now, my hunch is, though, especially when you look at, there's not good data, but I would say we call those process addictions. And in the, so that's gambling, pornography, those kinds of things, sex. I would say the rate of having a co-occurring disorder with process addiction is probably higher than 50%.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're more likely to have a process addiction, which means, I'm going to try to define it and then you can jump in, which means basically you're addicted to a process.
Exactly.
See, it's called process. See how I did that, Lila? That was pretty good, huh?
Yeah.
Bob, I don't have your education, but I figured that out. All right. But why is... I get up in the morning and I decide I'm not going to have a drink this morning. And I go out for lunch and I decide that I'm going to go to a place that doesn't serve alcohol because I don't want to have a guy sitting next to me drinking a beer. But I get home and I know by 4:30, 4:45, I'm going to pour my first bourbon right after my first beer. And I'm going to do that over and over again until I black out and wake up. Why isn't that a process addiction?
Because you're entering basically a chemical is there. And
okay.
A chemical, so alcohol is a drug.
All right.
So that's the difference with the process addictions. It's a behavior as opposed to a chemical that makes it all go.
All right. So now help me understand what a post-traumatic stress disorder is. Okay. I'm supposed to understand that we need to just start with what is a traumatic stress.
Okay. Well, what it means is trauma is associated. We experience an event that we never expected to experience.
And this can be a physical or psychological?
Both, exactly.
It has to be both, or it can be either?
No, it can be one or, either or.
Okay.
And, so we're talking about things like seeing a parent get hit, getting beat up ourselves, a woman getting raped, a soldier witnessing or being part of horrific violence in Vietnam.
Jerry,
a motor vehicle accident.
Let me ask you, didn't that term really come during the Vietnam War?
It did.
Even though it existed before that.
It was officially, the official diagnosis happened in 1980. And before that, we used to call it things like shell shock or war psychosis, those sorts of things. But what we know is if anybody is exposed to enough trauma, it's going to change their life relatively permanently. And with this, with each one of these disorders, why it's important to have a good, accurate diagnosis is because for each specific disorder, there's a different kind of treatment. And so that's why that part is very important. But most of the people that I would see at Powell grew up in an alcoholic home that to put it mildly, was chaotic. And there was lots of, typically not necessarily physical abuse, but verbal abuse, emotional abuse, inconsistency, emotional intensity, negative emotional intensity. And any time someone experience, I mean, not any time, I'm exaggerating, but because some people can weather this stuff and they don't get the disorder. But most of us, if we are somehow victimized at some level, we tend to blame ourselves.
All right. Now, on this, by the way, Jerry Owens is our guest today. He's from Powell CDC. We have Annie Mauldin in the house today, along with Lila Stafford and Bob Monserrate, and Ryan is producing today. You said negative emotional intensity, that someone suffers from that. Okay. I just want to put on my non-PC hat for a minute. Mm-hmm. That's always been existent.
Yes, sir.
In families and relationships.
Yes.
That is what? The number one dysfunction of a dysfunctional family?
Inconsistency and negative intensity.
Okay. So why do we find in 2013 that we need to label it and treat it when for how many hundreds or thousands of years it's been a part of the family model?
Okay, what it's associated with is very intense negative emotional intensity. Okay, and this, I can't answer your question, Mac. I mean, all of this is based on, just like I talked about earlier. We soldiers, at least a small percentage of soldiers who go into combat aren't the same person when they come out of it. And they keep re-experiencing that trauma they had in combat over and over again. Now, there's been a lot of research over the years to basically, before we used to blame the victim. In the movie Patton slapped the guy because he had post-traumatic stress disorder and basically acted like he wasn't a man.
Called him a coward.
A coward, yeah. I mean, and that isn't the case. Any of us, if we're exposed to enough, at some level, we're going to crack.
All right, now I know where we're heading. I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
I'm on your side, Annie. We don't know each other, but I'm really not the ogre that I'm about to sound to be. But what Patton did in that scene was he said, "Grow a couple, soldier." Yeah, it's tough out there. We've all seen men die. I think I'm almost getting this word by word. We've all seen men die in the perils of war. Get over it and go home to be a son and father that you need to be. Okay. Is that from your standpoint in mental health? Am I just the worst thing in the world? The guy who says that? Get over it. Grow a couple.
Yeah, you're really bad.
Really?
It depends who you're talking to.
I'm talking to the guy who thinks he's a victim.
Yeah.
Okay,
if a guy has post-traumatic stress disorder, let me put it this way, that's not going to help him. Right. He needs specific kinds of treatment to get over that. So it'd be like yelling at somebody who had any kind of disorder, like let's say.
Or a disease.
Pardon me?
Or a disease.
Yeah, it's like yelling at them to make the disease go away.
Yeah. Or I think about somebody, Lila, you and I know, where the wife is a terrible alcoholic and the husband thinks it has nothing to do with the disease. She ought to just stop drinking.
Exactly.
And the problems would go away.
Exactly.
You probably know hundreds of people like that. That mom, dad, sister, wife, spouse says, well, just stop drinking.
Right.
Don't go to the bars at night. Quit hanging around with Sally.
That's the answer, but it doesn't work.
Right, I know.
Oh, no, Nancy Reagan said, just say no.
Yeah.
It's a little more complicated than that.
Right.
But here's the other part. Everyone that goes to war doesn't end up with this. And not everyone that drinks is an alcoholic. It's, so when you said, was that wrong to talk to that person that way, it depends who you're talking to. For some people, that might work, but for somebody that has, PTSD, it's not going to work.
All right, we're going to continue today on Recovery Monday, sponsored by Powell CDC. This conversation about post-traumatic stress disorder. As always, phone lines are open. Should you want to participate in the conversation, you can call us at 1-855-244-0077. That's 1-855-244-0077. Or Bob Monserrate, the cat in the hat, is watching the chat, and you can jump on Webcast One Live, webcast1onelive.com, and give us your thoughts there. Jerry Owens, a mental health counselor from Powell CDC, along with Annie Mauldin. Annie McDowell is a former Satanist that will be on our show next week. Annie Mauldin and Lila Stafford. I'm J. Michael McKoy. We're coming back live on KTIA, Iowa.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
A father who is headed toward another heart attack. A woman who struggles daily with diabetes and her memory. A boy whose headaches keep him out of school. A mother who one morning discovers a lump. A girl whose condition defies diagnosis. You come to us because you need answers, but you also need more. You need understanding of what you're going through. You need comfort. You need to be treated as an individual, not a condition. You need to be included in your own care. You are the point of everything we do. That's why we're changing to Unity Point Health. It's a model of care that will help us work better together, where the physician who knows you best takes the lead, coordinating your care through every step, from the hospital to specialists to rehabilitation, to health services in the home and in the community, to making sure the treatments are effective. By working as a team, we surround you with care, helping you manage your health and your conditions, guiding you to making better choices and living a healthier life. The point of Unity is you. Unity Point Health.
This is Dan Fry, host of A Rebels Cause Radio, and I'm here to ask you a question. Are you tired of being marketed a second-rate product at a first-rate price? Or perhaps more importantly, do you want to wear something that shows who you are, which is a Christian, but doesn't look silly or even worse, just theologically incorrect? I want to introduce you to Wrath and Grace Clothing. They're a company that wants to provide you with clothes that you actually like, prices you can afford, and most importantly, they offer a sound, biblical message that represents who you are as a Christian. From the message presented in the graphics to the fit and finish, they have made their company on first-rate designs and high-quality fabrics and inks, and offered at a price you can afford. Wrath and Grace Clothing. Their mission is to proclaim the wrath and the grace of a sovereign God, one shirt at a time. Go to wrathandgrace.com to check out all their designs. That's wrathandgrace.com.
If Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of America was your personal webmaster, Tom would filter out all bad debt emails. If Tom was your mailman, you'd never get any debt reduction junk mail. If Tom Coates was a lineman, he'd block any phone calls offering to reduce your credit card debt.
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America, and we're still your best choice for credit counseling. We're local, we're accountable, and we can do more. You make the call when the time's right for you.
When it comes to competition, there really is none for Consumer Credit of America.
All right, we're back. 14th day of October in the Lord's year 2013. This is Powell CDC's Recovery Monday. What do we talk about on Recovery Monday? Well, we talk about the things that we think you need to know. We talk about them honestly and openly. We don't have anything to sell. We're not going to add on a 5-week CD series for only $19.95 from Time Life. Dr. Jerry Owens does not have a book to sell, and if he does, I'm not letting him pitch it. This is the real conversation about the things that are going to make the hair on the back of your neck stand up. And that's my job. My job. I'm not here to read Psalms and how David felt bad after getting together, with Bathsheba. I'm here to talk about 2013 and the things that scare us to death, the things that make us go bump in the night, the things that make us not sleep at night, the things that keep us up, the thing that make us not get into relationships or run from relationships, the thing that makes it so hard to have that loving family that we so desperately want, but there's that one person, there's that one issue, there's that one dysfunctional characteristic within the family that just seems to keep everybody a bubble apart. We talk about things here that help you, the listener, overcome those things. I think if you're listening to this show, you're probably not an alcoholic, at least not currently active. You're probably not a drug addict. You know somebody that is. I'll never forget when Pastor Mike one day in church said, look to your right, look to your left. You've got about 10 to 12 people all together in the row. 2 of you are drunks. 1 of you suffers from pornography. 1 of you's been divorced, and 1 of you's cheating on your spouse. And that covered 5 out of 10. And he didn't do it to scare us. He did it because he wanted to know that God already knew. And it's our secrets that keep us sick. And here we talk about those things so you can help somebody in your family. Jerry Owens is our special guest, third week in a row. He is a mental health counselor with Powell CDC. Lila Stafford, who's our co-host. Bob Monserrate, the cat in the hat, who's more qualified to be in this room than probably most of us, as he has spent his life as a forensic scientist. And can I say that you got a big award yet? Has that been announced?
I suppose you can say it.
Okay, go ahead and say it.
This Saturday coming, I'll be getting an international award. It's called the August Vollmer Excellence in Forensic Science Award.
Yeah.
So there are 4 people, 4 different categories, and 2 people from Canada, 1 person or 1 group from Australia and New Zealand, and then I'm the only one from the U.S.
And what was the category that you were honored in?
Well, basically, contribution from an individual, past or present.
And a lot of that has to do with the work that you do on the DMORT team.
Well, it's actually on stress management.
Okay.
And the work on critical incident stress.
Wow. Well, we're glad to have you here, Bob. We're blessed to have you in our room. Now, I think it's interesting that Annie Mauldin, who just joins us today, made a comment about her post-traumatic stress disorder. And is that fair that we call that you fear post-traumatic stress disorder?
No, I don't have it.
Okay.
I was just commenting on.
Okay. But there was something that you went through in your life that you can never forget, and that it wasn't a good thing for you to witness this. Is that, I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Yeah. No, what I was saying is that I've seen lots of kind of terrible things and like been present during things that should shake you up a little bit.
Like what? Just give me some examples. You don't have to give names and dates. But
Sure. Well, I was in a car accident and got hurt. I need to be closer.
Yeah, please.
And then as a teenager, I got myself into some pretty sticky situations where I saw some violence and some just not good stuff that should scare someone who's, normal. And I was probably too dumb to be scared.
Okay.
But the thing that really got to me the most, the thing that I lost sleep over and that bothered me over all of that stuff, was my sister giving birth.
You witnessed it.
Yeah.
I was in the hospital room.
Yeah. And before she even had my nephew, I was so terrified. It would keep me up at night. I would think her body's going to explode. I don't know what's going to happen to her. Something bad. I know it. She's tiny. It scared me.
Do you think it was a self-fulfilling prophecy? Meaning you thought it would happen. You had reasoned that it was reasonable that it could happen, so therefore it happened.
Oh, it did. It didn't happen. She didn't explode or anything.
Well, we're so happy to hear that, Annie. And for your nephew's sake, I'm sure he's glad too.
Right.
Let me ask you something. Here's something I thought of, and I know I'm kind of wandering today a little bit, but I'm trying to narrow this down. I'm trying to narrow down the difference between, pardon me, I don't mean to be offensive. Gee, I want to live as a victim. So let me find something that I can be a victim on so everybody will feel sorry for me and all the attention won't go to my little sister or my big brother or whatever. And that thing that is really, really traumatic stress. Here's something for me. I am, goosebumps, I am deathly afraid of snakes. I mean, deathly afraid. I mean, freak out, scream like a teenage girl at a Justin Bieber concert, scared of snakes. That comes from when I was a kid. I was looking for something under Sarah Green's house. I was calling for a kitten to come out, and I came face to face. I don't know, what is that, about a foot? Face to face with a snake with his mouth open wide, and it bit me right on my right cheek. Wasn't a big deal. Took it to the doctor, no big deal, I mean, if you throw a rubber snake at me, I will poo. Okay?
Yeah.
Is that post-traumatic syndrome?
That is more likely a phobia. and you would meet criteria for a phobia if you could say your fear of snakes caused functional impairment in your life.
Yeah, I don't go out to the desert.
But that's not functional impairment, I would say.
Right.
I mean, you can hold
What if
a
it
job.
caused me to never want to go outside?
Then that would be a phobia, right? Because then you couldn't have a normal life. Exactly. But at least from what, and it's a very good example because it helps us identify when is it a disorder and when is it not, right? You know, there's a lot of people who are scared of flying, but they don't have to do it for their life, so it's okay. But if a man who travels for his living develops a phobia and he can't hold his job about flying, then it's a disorder.
So let's say that I go serve in Afghanistan and I've got no fear of snakes. It's just another creature. Haven't run into them. I was raised on a farm and didn't see a few garden snakes here and there. But in the midst of a battle, I was bitten multiple times by a snake, and now I'm scared to death of them. Does that change it, or am I still just have a phobia?
It's iffy. Again, if he has some kind of impairment, daily impairment in his life due to his fear of snakes. Okay. But for most people, they could, avoid having contact with snakes, and it ends up being manageable.
Okay.
Mac, you need to ask Lila and Annie if they have a fear of snakes.
Why?
I'm curious.
Do you have a fear of snakes?
I don't like them.
You don't like them?
No.
But do you scream like a little girl at a Justin Bieber concert and poo your pants if you see one?
I mean, I'm not gonna. I don't know how I'd react. I don't put myself around them.
Okay, you run from them?
Yeah, I would. Or try and hit it. Chop it.
I'm not afraid of spiders or snakes.
Oh, Jim Stafford didn't write anything for you.
But I am afraid of a lot of other things. But because I grew up at the lake and there's snakes and spiders everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid of them.
There was a little sideways joke here that I don't know if anybody had. Jim Stafford is the name of a country music artist that wrote a song, I Don't Like Spiders and Snakes. And Lila's husband is not that man, but his name is Jim Stafford.
We do have his picture up on our refrigerator, though, from Branson, Missouri.
Okay.
All right, let's say, and if I'm being ridiculous, just tell me. I'm just trying to create some boundaries here.
Yeah.
I'm a young boy. I'm in the Catholic Church, and I am sexually and emotionally abused by a priest. And every time I see a man in a white collar, in a priest outfit, I freak. Is that post-traumatic stress disorder?
Most likely. I mean, again, not everybody who is sexually abused is going to have post-traumatic stress, but what would happen if, say, this young boy had, he would have freak out among any clergy person, and he'd probably be pretty scared around most men. Okay, so it's a generalized kind of thing, but he would be stuck at that point until he got help for it. In a sense, he would keep re-experiencing those feelings and thoughts. See, it's intrusive. It keeps coming back. It's like a movie going off in your head that you can't get rid of.
What's the difference between borderline personality disorder and post-traumatic stress disorder? Both are caused by an event, either once or recurring, that when reminded of that event, drives that individual back to the age in which they encountered that event.
With the post-traumatic stress disorder, with the borderline personality disorder, the key feature is this person is scared of abandonment. And that's going to be the underlying issue around all the pathology. With post-traumatic stress, it's all going to tie back, like the example of this clergy person, sexually abusing this child. So, but you bring up a good point, because sometimes it takes a while to sort out what's what. But with post-traumatic stress, we're exposed to something horrific, and it's been 1 year, 5 years, 10 years later, and you're still there. You can't have a normal life because you keep re-experiencing that event. So it's like you're frozen in time.
Does it change the biology or chemistry of the mind, or is it a memory?
It does both. It's a memory. It may be a distorted memory after a time, but what happens? All of us have experienced fight or flight. When we were so scared of something, our adrenaline went up. We were ready to fight. We were ready to do whatever it takes. For post-traumatic stress, you experience that a lot of the time. Either you're experiencing that or you go to the other extreme where you're just numbed out and you avoid everything.
Jerry,
that kind of stuff.
Can you, can that post-traumatic stress come about later in life? Let's say you experienced something as a child and then you were okay for a long time. You didn't show any signs of it.
That
can
can
it show
happen.
Up later?
That can happen.
Okay.
More often right from the event, you notice
Yeah.
a difference in your life, but you can.
Yeah.
The key features of post-traumatic stress are, number one, you're exposed to something horrific.
Do you have to actually be exposed to it, or can you be told about it?
Typically, you have to be exposed to it. Okay, but some of it is in the eyes of the beholder. What is traumatic stress for one person may be different than the other. But you're exposed to it. It's usually awful. The memories and feelings and emotions keep going off in your head, even though it might be 5, 10, 20 years ago. So you keep re-experiencing it like a little movie that's going on in your head. You try to avoid situations that trigger that. And you may do things to try to numb those symptoms.
Jerry Owens is our guest. We also have Annie Mauldin and also Lila Stafford in the house today. It's Recovery Mondays. I'm J. Michael McKoy. If I haven't told you lately, thanks for listening. I love this job. Couldn't do it without you. Here on Recovery Mondays, powered by webcast1live.com.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershot.
I am administrative manager.
I am the senior technician
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
If we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, it's got to be, it's your home.
It's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're gonna do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's gonna be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're gonna do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed right or it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
If you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you gonna say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're gonna be listening. They're gonna wanna know what your challenges are. Then they're gonna come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? You can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me. But is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going though. I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm gonna take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
fixed right or it's free or 100% money back.
Enough said.
22 before the top and Salem Radio Network News, and then Michael Mudloff with True Blue. We are on Recovery Monday today, as always. Tomorrow, just so you know, Will Rogers will be in the house with Tom Coates and I, and we'll be discussing what is now the, 13th day of this government shutdown, and what does it really mean, and should we even care to look behind the curtains to see who the wizard is? I had a great talk with a friend of mine over breakfast the other day, and he said, Mac, you're just getting too caught up in everything they want you to get caught up in. The world is not coming to an end. Your paycheck is not going to end. Soldiers are not going to stop protecting you. You can get into the park if you really want. This is the side, the government, the people trying to get you to look at the shiny object in the sky and not the most important things, which are, and this person rattled off 2 or 3 things that are important. So Will Rogers is a pretty collected man when it comes to politics, and so I look forward to hearing what he's thinking tomorrow on Mac's World from 3 to 4 here on KTIA. All right, my guests today are Annie Mauldin. Her and Lila Stafford are counselors at Powell CDC. Jerry Owens is here. He's a mental health counselor. Annie's going to be our special guest next week to hear her story. At least she's been asked to. I don't know if we've got a firm confirmation. What's your passion for this study? Does it come from, like myself or Lila, we had personal experiences in alcohol and drug recovery and felt that we needed to give back? Somebody in your family, just where does that come from?
I got sober when I was 16, and I've been sober ever since. And there was a man named Dick who played a big impact on my life and my family's life, and he passed away. I was in nursing school, but I always kind of gravitated towards the unruly patients and things like that, and I wanted to be a counselor, but I knew there wasn't a whole lot of financial security in it. And when Dick died, I just thought, well, who's gonna do it now? Who's gonna tell people what to do in the way that they need to be told what to do, and who's gonna help everybody? Because he played a huge impact in my life, and so many people's.
And so Dick was a man who came alongside people in darkest seasons and helped them find the light, basically, and in the midst of recovery.
Yeah.
Was it a faith-based thing, or was it just simply getting sober and keeping clean?
It was all of it. Dick was a counselor, but he was also a member of 12-step community. Okay. And I had known him in all out, he was a family friend of mine.
How long ago did he pass away?
It's been 5 years.
5 years, okay. And so it was his passing that encouraged you to come alongside others as he had done for you for this career. What is the thing that... Okay, 2 questions. What is the thing that most disheartens you in this field?
Up until recently, I've worked with children, and it was, we can give these kids everything that we've got, and we can help them save themselves, but they still have to go home.
Okay, meaning that home is not always the best place for them to get the support that they need?
Exactly.
Okay, that was well said, by the way. All right, if that's what disheartens you, what makes your heart just dance a jig, just flutter like a butterfly, and just your peace and serenity are out the window with your joy?
Like in my life or with clients? Or
with your profession, yeah.
When I see a client just kind of click, or they just stop in to show us that I got my license, or hey, here are my kids' homecoming pictures, or something like that.
Now, if you got sober at 16, when did your drinking career start?
I was 13.
Wow.
12, 13.
You were that very what am I trying to say? That kid. That kid.
I was that kid.
Yeah, pushing back, not listening to mom and dad, et cetera, et cetera. All right. Well, we look forward to hearing your whole story next week, and thanks for being here. We've gone over a bunch of mental health issues, Jerry, and one that I'd like to spend a little bit more time on if we can, and that is psychosis, which I'm assuming is another word or within the phrase of word psychotic.
Yes, sir.
Talk to me about someone who is psychotic, because, you know, that's a term that we have abused as a negative label when, in fact, they may not have those characteristics or actions at all. But if you're talking about someone who's been diagnosed psychotic, what are you talking about?
They're out of touch with reality, meaning they might hear voices. That's called auditory hallucinations that are telling them to do things. They might have beliefs, that someone is out to kill them when there's no one out to do such a thing. Those are called delusional beliefs. But essentially, all these other disorders, the person at some level knows what reality is around them. But with this one, they've lost touch. So with two drugs in particular, with methamphetamines and with marijuana, what happens when we don't know why it happens, but after taking this drug for X amount of time, suddenly they don't know what's real and what's Memorex. And they start believing something or hearing something in their head, where it makes them a danger to themselves, a danger to other persons. And that's psychosis.
All right. Now, the extreme of this would be the case that a lot of people in Iowa are familiar with, and I'm going to say the name wrong. Bob, you help me. Heidi, the girl that took her babies to the lake and drowned them. What was her last name?
Can't think of her last name.
Anybody? Heidi? Anyway.
Her dad was an important guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you remember the case?
Vaguely.
Okay.
I mean, there's been a lot of cases like this, so there's some commonalities, yeah.
Some people said it was post given birth, that she had, the last baby was only like 6 months old and the other was like a year and a half, and that she said that voices in her head told her to go drown those babies, that it'd be the best thing for them. And she was never convinced. I knew someone who was very directly related to the case. Very, very, very directly related to the case. And he said over and over in the years that he was part of this case, she absolutely believed that she had done what was right. And even though people and judges and lawyers were telling her it was the wrong thing to do, she believed in her heart she had done the right thing. Is that psychotic?
I'm really uncomfortable.
Anstonin.
Okay.
Anfinson.
Thank you.
I'm uncomfortable commenting on a specific case because I don't know the person. But what I would say,
I should have known that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
I apologize.
It's okay. But if someone, that does something just so outrageous that we can't comprehend, in a lot of cases, of course, you would look for psychosis. Okay, and when those horrific kinds of things, when a parent kills their child like that, I mean, you certainly want to rule out psychosis, but and sometimes we don't know. I mean, but it's that's the sad stuff.
All right.
Yeah.
We're going to take our last break. We'll come back for about 8 minutes. Here's what I'd like to do, Bob and Jerry. Okay, while we're gone, what I want to talk about when we come back is I want to talk about when those when those mental disorders or mental health instances are brought up because of a legal need, claiming to be insane, pleading insanity, pleading psychosis. How often is that real, and should we respect it? Or how often is it a defense attorney with not very good morals or standards trying to quote unquote get their client off? Let's talk about that when we come back. That'll be our last segment today on Recovery Mondays, brought to you by Powell CDC, powered by webcast1live.com.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Whether you're 10, 25, 50, 80 years old and beyond, everyone needs to live within their means. I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America. For almost a quarter of a century, we've helped people of all ages learn to manage their personal finances to benefit them far into the future. When problems arise, we've got the experience you need to make those debt problems go away. Got financial problems? Call Consumer Credit of America.
Get away from us, you mean old credit card. We don't have any more money. We're in trouble now. Save us! Help! Somebody save us! Somebody help! Help! Save us!
Hi, I'm Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of Des Moines. If your credit card's a little too animated, give us a call.
Hooray! We're saved! Consumer Credit! You're our hero!
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
If you choose to obey the power of sin, it leads to death. If you choose to obey obedience, it leads to righteousness.
Forgiveness is just the beginning of life in Christ. God wants us to live for Him now.
And because of Jesus Christ, the gospel was preached, and you and I are blessed today because of Abraham. Did you know that? We're blessed.
Experience Truth, 99.3 FM.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
All right, we're back. It's the 14th day of October in the Lord's year 2013. I'm J. Michael McKoy. This is Recovery Monday. I want to thank Jerry Owen for being our guest here for the last 3 weeks. And Jerry, please know that we're going to have you back. And I heard, you may be the star of 2013. I've heard back from so many people about how between your incredible knowledge and my incredible ignorance of asking the question, and I didn't take that negatively, but me being ignorant of these subjects, but yet being thirsty, being hungry, being curious, and you so well be willing to talk to me like I'm a 6-year-old, I appreciate that very much. And Lila, you did a good job bringing him in here. You just get the best gifts. When do we get Hoagland back? I love having that guy on. He was just a ball.
He's a very, very sweet man.
Yes, he is. Very busy man, too, I know. And Annie Mauldin will have Annie back next week to hear more of Annie's full story. And we appreciate that. Now, Bob, you are, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but the truth of the matter is you are the most sought after, one of the most sought after expert witnesses in the field of alcohol consumption.
Well, yes, the not only consumption, but effects of alcohol in the body, pharmacology, and
so it's not just alcohol; it's the effects on the body by outside input, drugs,
right,
alcohol.
and how many drinks it takes to get certain levels, and metabolism.
And you've testified over 1,000 times.
Yeah.
All right. Help me understand, and this is not a rhetorical question. I don't know the answer to this, but it seems so many times. I'm thinking about the case of the guy who walked into the theater out in Colorado Springs and killed all those people, and they wanted to claim he was insane. And if I understand the definition of insanity, and I don't mean the one in the 12-step rooms where we do the same thing over and over again and think something different's going to happen, but the fact to be insane, you can't be, tell me if this is right or wrong. To qualify as insane, you can't know the difference between right and wrong.
Well, I mean, that could be a definition that someone gives. I think many people in the world will look at an act like that where somebody goes in and shoots everybody, and they say you would have to be insane to do that. You know, but I don't necessarily believe that you have to be insane to do that. But that would be a defense ploy. And they'll go out and find an expert witness. I hate to say it, but I call them liars for hire. and they can basically say whatever they want as long as they're getting paid to say.
They use the letters behind the name, the education, whatever, and say, I'm an expert. I'm from at least 50 miles outside of town, and you ought to hear what I have to say.
So I call it also a game. It's a game of the jury. You have to convince a jury that you're right and the other person is wrong. And so they look at how you act and how you move and how confident you look and how you're dressed. And if you have a goatee that's got gray in it, makes you more credible. They have courses on how to be an expert witness and how to look credible. Even if you don't tell the truth, if you look credible, people will believe you. And so it's, I play the game pretty well because I've done a lot of it. And I call it game playing.
But you're not a liar.
No, but it's hard to get the truth out in court. You promise or swear that you're going to tell the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth. But the hardest thing to do is get the truth out because there are objections and they have to rule on what you're going to say. And I would have to say probably the most difficult thing to testify on is the area of psychology because no one's ever going to agree. I mean, and Jerry could say that he brings in another professional and you guys are going to disagree on different things. And so, it's not like a hard science like biology or chemistry. We have this mass spec and we shot it on and this thing did it and that's it. No. Psychology is in a different arena where it has to do with opinions and how you see people and how you interpret the way people are. And Jerry may interpret differently. If you go to two different people, they may interpret what you do and what you are and what your problem is differently.
What I hear you saying is that if I'm a defense attorney and I need Annie to be found not guilty of mass murder, then I need to find guys like Jerry who will testify in Annie's case to be sympathetic towards her situation and explain to the jury why Annie was not in her right mind when she killed those number of people in the theater.
Sure. You're going to look for a person, and there are many people out there. Go on a Google search for expert witnesses, and then you find the person that is basically going to tell you what you want them to say.
Right.
So you're going to go shopping just like people do.
So how does a jury or a judge able to tell the difference between that and the bovine feces?
You're going to have to go look at a track record. You have to go back and look at transcripts of how they testified before. And so you'll have to see where they declined as an expert or were they qualified or disqualified as an expert in previous court testimony. So you have to do some work to see where this person is, and then you have to do your homework and find out if the person said one thing at one trial and another thing at another trial. And then you have to catch them in the lie. So, I mean, it's a lot of work to be able to do that. And a lot of times people don't do it.
It's a lot of work to be a liar. Isn't it easier to just tell the truth?
Well, see, for me, and I've testified, like you said, over 1,000 times, if I don't tell the truth, somebody's going to find me and catch me in a lie. So the key is always tell the truth, and they'll never catch you in a lie.
Jerry, how often are you in the middle of a legal situation when you're treating someone?
Very infrequently. I mean, okay. I've been doing this for 30 years, and I think I've been to court once.
Is that partially by your choosing, or that's just the way the cookies fell?
I can't answer that. I mean, I certainly, yeah, I choose not to go to court. That's
okay.
That's really uncomfortable for me. So I would see that as duress.
But if you're subpoenaed, then you usually don't have a choice.
Right. And I've been very fortunate to not go to court. I mean, and some of that, I'm very careful about what I say and do. So, that doesn't happen. But I've certainly seen some very qualified people being taken to court, and it seems like they're treated unfairly, just like you're talking about.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
All right, before we get out of here today, what's the one thing or a couple things that people ought to know about mental health when it comes to addictions?
It's so treatable. I can't, and that's why I do what I do. If you come up with an accurate diagnosis, there's typically, a well-researched, empirical, data-driven kind of treatment that will help somebody. And just like Annie was talking about, to see someone regain that lost potential and have quality of life and enjoy simple things again makes me happy. Pretty simple.
All right. Jerry, I appreciate you being here these last 3 weeks. We look forward to having you back over and over again. Lila, thanks for being here today. Thanks for your folks down at Powell CDC for their continued support of getting the word out, talking about the tough subjects, having the conversations that most people don't want to have, let alone listen to. Annie, we'll see you next week. And until we see each other tomorrow, do me one favor, would you? Till I see you again, just one. Just pray.